How we doing, guys? Richie, the Jordan Patrick Show. We are going to talk about yesterday's NFL Championship Sunday. Two teams punched their tickets to the Super Bowl, the Los Angeles Rams and the Cincinnati Bengals. Before I go any further, I've got to give my buddy Brett a ton of credit. When we first did our playoff preview, and yes, he was trolling, and it's hard for me to give him all the credit, but Brett called the Bengals and the Rams before round one was played. And when you consider that the Rams were the 4 seed in the NFC and the Bengals were the 3 seed in the AFC, I got to give him credit. That was ballsy to pick both those teams and to be right about it. I got to give my boy credit. He also said that Matthew Stafford is going to be the Super Bowl MVP. If that happens, I don't know, man. I might owe this man a bar tab or something. But I got to give him credit. You know, Brett, you were right. And I'm actually going to re-air that episode in the near future while we have some filler content leading up to our Super Bowl show. Because, you know, with the Pro Bowl going on, not a lot of NFL action to focus on. And, you know, the Pro Bowl is not exactly what it used to be. Title game reactions. It's shocking to think that the Cincinnati Bengals just a year ago won 4 games and Joe Burrow had a season-ending knee injury. And to think that just one short year later, they are in the Super Bowl. It's a great story. I mean, this team hadn't won a playoff game since 1988 going into the season. And in 15 days, they have won 3 playoff games. Really a cool story of a fan base that's always been very loyal. You know, under previous head coach Marvin Lewis, they had a couple of good years with guys like TJ Houshmandzadeh, Chad Ochocinco, Carson Palmer, later Andy Dalton. They had some good teams and some good years. But crazy enough, they were never able to win a playoff game with Marvin Lewis at the helm. They lost some heartbreakers, particularly one game that stands out to me was a game they lost to the Pittsburgh Steelers. But it's an amazing story that this team has come full circle and in such a short time, you know, in 2 years drafting 2 former LSU teammates. It's really a cool story. They are definitely embracing the role of a Cinderella team, knocking off a Kansas City Chiefs team that basically has played in 4 consecutive title games. It's an incredible story. My instant reaction, or not so instant, today's Monday. I wanted to process what happened yesterday a little bit. As much as I give credit to Joe Burrow, and he is indeed very deserving of credit, you know, coming back from 18 points down, tying the biggest comeback in AFC Championship history, previously done by Peyton Manning's 2006 Colts against Tom Brady and the New England Patriots. They were down 18 and they came back. That game was played in Indy. A tale of 2 halves. Prior to the first half concluding, Patrick Mahomes made a very rare mistake. I understand that they wanted to score another touchdown and try to put it away. But Mahomes, on a slow developing play, chose to go underneath to Tyreek Hill, who would have had to break a couple of tackles to hit the end zone. Whereas I believe when Mahomes realized and identified that his options in the end zone were not open, he needed to chuck that ball in the back, take the 3. And the reason why this particular play is so pivotal is that in the fourth quarter, I wouldn't say the Chiefs were playing for the tie, but they got so conservative and so worrisome about the remaining clock that I do feel that they kind of telegraphed their drive and basically went backwards. There was a fumble in there. Mahomes was dancing a little too much. I think what I'm trying to get at is between the final drive of the fourth quarter and, they won the coin toss and the first drive of OT. The Chiefs played with a kind of desperation that I couldn't understand. They didn't incorporate the run game whatsoever. And I really feel that this particular loss, while you have to give Joe Burrow the credit, it also has a lot to do with ineptitude. And I can't believe I'm even saying it about Patrick Mahomes, but also Andy Reid. Now, I know as a lot of Philadelphia Eagles fans would say, while Andy Reid is a phenomenal coach and definitely going to make the Hall of Fame, he has had a bad reputation in some of these title games going back to his Philly days. He did break his curse by winning a title game with KC and also winning a Super Bowl with them. And the team had a massive drought for over 50 years. I have to think going into next season, the Kansas City Chiefs are still going to be one of the favorites. They've got a phenomenal football team. Not sure if Eric Bieniemy is going to move on to a different coaching situation or if he stays. I personally think he stays. But, they still have a phenomenal team. I do think that when you look at the team they beat the previous week, the Buffalo Bills, it did take something out of the Chiefs. But I was a little taken back that they were so conservative on that final goal line drive. I mean, I understand that the Bengals were moving the ball, but they weren't playing the 2007 Patriots or the 1998 Vikings. I think that they got too conservative and they were, you can't worry about what's going to happen on defense when you're still on offense. And I think that the Chiefs really got too smart for their own good. One telling stat in this game that really is shocking is that Mahomes threw 2 interceptions to Burrow's 1. That was the first of those 2 interceptions was actually the first interception that Mahomes has ever thrown in a title game. In overtime, I just didn't like what they did. I feel that they forced trying to go down the field for the quick hit, when in reality, I think that they had some matchups where they could have gradually gotten down the field because they proved that on the final drive of the game. I think Mahomes forced a pass into a tight coverage window, and ultimately it's picked. And, what more can you say about kicker in this game? Butker is the guy with the big rep, but McPherson has truly, he's risen to like superstar status of kickers. You think about great kickers, you think about guys like Justin Tucker, Robbie Gould, who also played last evening in the second game. Adam Vinatieri, who's been out of the league for a while now, but, just a primetime clutch kicker. But, McPherson is entering that territory. The guy's been money in very tough, that field goal that he had kicked yesterday, and it kind of just hooked in. Arrowhead's a tough place to kick, especially this time of year. For the Chiefs, it's got to be disappointing because just as a fan, I could say that I don't think the best team won yesterday. But it's not always the best team that does win. It's the best team that executes. And these playoffs have been a prime example of that. Both 1 seeds didn't win a playoff game. Last year's world champions lost in round 2. But, it's a great story for the Cincinnati Bengals to come in there and win. It's been so long for that franchise. And Joe Burrow is giving a lot of people the Joe Cool 2.0 vibes, already drawing comparisons to the clutch nature of the great Joe Montana. And speaking of Joe Montana, his former team, the San Francisco 49ers, lost a heartbreaker last night, giving up a 10-point lead in the second half. They had a 10-point lead. To be honest, it was a tight ball game. It's kind of what I expected. The 49ers defeated this Los Angeles Rams team twice in the regular season. A lot to take away from this game. And I'm going to start with the 49ers. I said this yesterday leading up to these games. Jimmy Garoppolo is not that guy. And while it's a cool story that they overachieved and got only 1 game away from the Super Bowl, I do believe that there will be a quarterback change coming in the near future for the 49ers. They didn't draft Trey Lance to let him collect dust on the bench. And I believe that Jimmy Garoppolo, in crunch time, made some poor mistakes. But you also have to take into consideration that in crunch time, the Rams' front seven, particularly their front four, was really pushing back the San Francisco 49ers and, just causing havoc. As watching that game, I just kept saying to myself that if the Rams tied the game or took the lead, it was going to be over. The Rams are very tough to come back on once they actually have any kind of real lead. That's when they're at their best. Couple of things go differently. I do think the 49ers win the ball game. When they had a 3-point lead and they were approaching the 50, it was second and short. And I thought that was a prime opportunity to try to do something over the top, maybe to Kittle, try a little play action, because you still have 2 other downs after that. And I thought they got a little too conservative. They got blown up on that particular play, and it kind of killed the drive. You got to give the Rams credit, Cooper Kupp just running great routes. And the 49ers have a stingy defense, but Cooper Kupp running great routes, getting open. Odell Beckham Jr., benefiting off of the kind of routes that Cooper Kupp is running. And Odell in his own right. A lot of people don't want to give Odell credit. But I will say that while I do believe that a lot of guys could fit into that number 2 role, opposite of, in my opinion, the best receiver this particular year, Odell's doing a good job. I'm not going to overthink some of the other motives. He's in a position to win a championship, something that he always wanted. He did burn bridges with the Giants, with the Browns, and both exits were very similar to one another, with him kind of acting out and throwing, whether it's a real tantrum or a social media tantrum or a media tantrum, he had his moments of not presenting himself as a player or even his own brand in the best light. But, given an opportunity that he has with Robert Woods going down and playing for a very stacked, I'm going to call him a super team in the Los Angeles Rams, he's maximizing the opportunity. On the character level, I'd like to see Odell be on this kind of awesome teammate, awesome behavior when things aren't necessarily going his way. And that's when I truly could say that the man has come full circle and grown up. But he's going to a Super Bowl, so who cares what I really think, As a Giants fan, I am happy for him to a level, but I'm a little skeptical in terms of I've seen a lot of people say that Odell has come full circle and completely grown. I can't necessarily say that off of a short sample size because of the sheer fact that, against the same 49er team, in his very first game as a member of the Los Angeles Rams, he was kind of pouting. He gave up on a route that led to an interception. He didn't seem all the way locked in. But, he got his opportunity. He's maximizing it. And at the end of the day, we watch these guys because we want to see what they do best, and that's play football. And Odell Beckham Jr. was on a Hall of Fame path with the New York Giants. He had some lower leg injuries over the years that really derailed his career. And, playing for the Cleveland Browns, a team that didn't exactly feature their 1 and 2 receivers, because I guess given that situation, you could probably consider Odell and Landry like a 1A and a 1B. They were both sort of like the number 1 receivers, but a run-first team that really didn't feature the receivers. And then you factor in Odell's injury history. I can understand from the professional level why he was frustrated. But, the Rams, they've caught some breaks, but they've also made some of their own breaks too. They're a very talented football team. I've alluded to in previous shows that I thought that they were a little overrated. I mean, they did almost blow the Tampa game. They did put up 20 against the Niners, which was enough for the victory. But I wholeheartedly believe that, when you win championships or you're on your way to winning championships, in addition to being good, you also got to be a little lucky. One takeaway that I didn't really like about this game is I do believe that while for the most part yesterday, or I in both games, I did feel that the referees were allowing guys to play, which is good with a game of that magnitude, as long as it's consistent. And I do think it was consistent enough in both games. But what I didn't care for is it really appeared that at minimum 3, possibly 4 times, the Los Angeles Rams were running on double zeros when snapping the ball. Now, I understand that the play clock that they show you is not official, but Fox had a great shot over Matthew Stafford's shoulder showing that it was literally on zeros and the ball was not snapped. And that was only one time. And I always say when you're watching it on the television, it kind of, you got to give it like a little millisecond and you can count to a full second when it's like, okay, they should have threw a flag on that. And I didn't go for that. It seemed like they got the benefit of that quite often. And I did find it kind of comical when the 49ers actually did get penalized for that same infraction. But I'm not going to go there, and nothing to see here. In my opinion, the better team did win. The more talented team did win. And the team that executed in crunch time, they won. It's going to be an interesting Super Bowl because you have a Rams team who defensively, they're star-studded on 3 layers: linebacker, D-line, secondary. You got 3 potential Hall of Famers in that mix. On the other side of the ball, they're a team that can hurt you in a couple of ways. You've got Cam Akers and Sony Michel, who are both running the ball hard. You've got a decent offensive line. Matthew Stafford, even though he is a good quarterback, I do believe that on some layers, some levels, he could be deemed the weak link of the offense, because I don't necessarily put him on the level of an Aaron Rodgers or a Tom Brady, or to be honest, right now, even say a Patrick Mahomes or his opponent coming up, Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow is playing at an elite level, and it's great to see. But where the Rams have a vast advantage, in my opinion, is I think the Cincinnati secondary is going to have a very difficult time covering and accounting for the combination of Odell Beckham and Cooper Kupp. And I also believe that the Bengals O-line, while they did play better against the Chiefs as opposed to how they played against the Titans, I do think that Joe Burrow really had to make a lot of his own magic happen, because he escaped some sacks and did some legendary stuff yesterday that you got to tip your hat to him. But against a very physical and fluid Rams defense, it's going to be tough. It's going to be very tough for the Bengals. I'm not going to give my prediction just yet. But I do think where the Bengals do have a legitimate advantage is that I do think they have the better quarterback. Another takeaway that I saw yesterday that I actually think was pretty cool, and I've been critical of Odell Beckham, but I try to be fair. When he consoled Deebo Samuel, young player who really got my attention and has my utmost respect on how much heart he showed during these playoffs, to see him consoling Deebo, who was crying and was distraught after, you put everything into this and you lose a very close game with no guarantees of another chance to get that close to a Super Bowl and win it. I think Odell showed a lot of humility, and I think he showed a lot of class, holding off his own personal celebration to console a player on a rival team who clearly he respects. I think it's a good look on Odell's part. And regardless of what people think, myself included, I think that was real. I don't think there was anything fake about that to kind of redo an image or to kind of look like, a great guy. I don't think Odell's a bad person. I just think that Odell has done some questionable stuff in the past that would question his maturity level. And at the end of the day, I'm a huge football fan, so I want to see these players healthy, and I want to see these players excel, whether I was pleased or not with the way they may have handled themselves with a team that I adore. But, we all grow up in our own time. And in Odell's case, I hope that that actually really has happened because he has a world of talent. And at the end of the day, he's a very polarizing figure and someone who you want to tune in and see what he's doing because he's a very entertaining player. Jordan Elliott and myself going to be doing a Super Bowl show not far from now. In the meantime, I'm going to be sharing some of our previous Super Bowl videos I had mentioned earlier. We did 2 previous Super Bowl shows. Actually, our inaugural one was actually Super Bowl Sunday 2 years ago when the Niners played the Chiefs. And in the near future, I got to give Brett his flowers, man. Brett did his thing calling these games, and it's so damn funny because I was laughing at him. I legitimately felt like he was trolling. I still feel that way, but you know what? He was right. And you got to give people credit when they're right. Brett was. And I spoke to Brett yesterday. He tells me that he believes the Rams are going to win this game, but we're going to elaborate and build up more as this game gets closer. Great football season. And well, I got to say, one of the most unpredictable playoffs I've seen in some years. Just a really exciting playoffs where you're getting some new faces in there. You're talking about guys like Joe Burrow, Matthew Stafford finally getting some success after so many tough years being a quarterback for just a horrific franchise in the form of the Detroit Lions. Patrick Mahomes, still the face of the leagues. You're going to see plenty of him. A couple of guys that didn't make the playoffs this year, but that are still very much involved in the future of the league at that position. You're talking about Justin Herbert, Lamar Jackson, and Aaron Rodgers, who's been a staple of NFL excellence for quite some time. Nobody knows for sure what his future holds. And we're still kind of waiting to see if Tom Brady is officially retiring. I made it clear where I stand on that. I think he is. But the NFL is in good hands with just a lot of excellent quarterbacks. And, at the end of the day, it's a quarterback-driven league. You have another great talent, Deshaun Watson, and we'll see what happens with his legal situation. But, he was the NFL yards leader in 2020. He didn't play this year due to the legal situation that he's going through. But the point is that you just got so many talented QBs. And I don't even think I mentioned Josh Allen. He might be the best of all of them. Great NFL season. And for anyone who loves football, these playoffs have really been great. And the ultimate winners, in my opinion, have been the fans. Thank you for watching. And we're going to be back soon. I hope you guys have an excellent week.